Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and unfortunately I'm still extremely sick, but that's not going to stop me from making a video about a card that is also extremely sick. At this point, perhaps you've already heard of the game-ruining pile of garbage known as Planar Bridge. It comes out for 6, and then you pay 8, search your library for any permanent card, and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So that means you can basically go get any card from your library that's not a instant or sorcery. Pretty much. You actually could go get a land with this if you really wanted. Now, as I said in my last video, and it seems a lot of people agree with me, if you throw this card into Tron, it is broken as hell. And everybody's saying, oh, like turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, whatever, I'm cool. Oh no, no. You have to be creative. You can go get anything from your deck. So I had a little fun because I know you guys like the Overlooked But Awesome series, and so do I. I love it. I made a top 42 list of cards you could fetch with this. Or cards that you should fetch with it, I should say. Ultra powerful, game-ending, unbelievable, and situational cards. Why 42? Because 42 is the answer to all your questions in the whole universe. Now, I did just say top 42, but these are in no particular order, except, as some of you will probably notice, pretty well alphabetical. Welcome to Windows. Alright, the number one creature you could go fetch and put out on the battlefield to destroy your opponents is Akroma, Angel of Fury. She's a 6/6 with flying trample protection from white and blue. Oh my god, plus you can pump her. So if your opponent's playing white or blue, ta-da! Next up, also Akroma, Angel of Wrath. Akroma's really powerful, guys. Flying first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and red. So if your opponent's playing black or red, bring her out. Time for some more angels. Oh yes, Empirical Archangel. Look at that cost. I mean, that is just insane. Or are you afraid they're going to remove the creature when you bring it out? Shroud. Also flying, 5/8 flyer. All damage that would be dealt to you is dealt to Empirical Archangel instead. So if you're playing burn or you're playing against burn, there you go. Or are you still afraid of removal? Ashen Rider. Love this card, by the way. Nobody played this card in Theros, but it's a 5/5 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent. The good old 2-for-1 special. You can't beat an Archon coming in for 5/5 flying and then 2 removal spells for free. It's any permanent, people. Any permanent. If you're playing against Tron, kill their Tron lands. Next up, straight from Conspiracy, we've got Avatar of Woe. It's a 6/5 for 8. Who cares about the cost, honestly? It has fear, which means it can't be blocked except by artifacts or black creatures. And all you have to do is just tap it, and target creature is destroyed, can't be regenerated. Removal on a stick, and almost guaranteed damage. Next up, are you really worried that your opponent might pull some kind of little trick? Bearer of the Heavens, or as I like to call it, I'm dragging you down with me. It's a 10/10, and when it dies, destroy all permanents at the beginning of the next end step. All permanents. All of them. Every single one. Next up, one of my personal favorites, Blazing Archon. It's normally a 9 cost, which is why you've never heard of it, but it's a 5/6 flyer, and creatures can't attack you. Bit of a powerful effect there. Next up, I gotta skip alphabetical order for a second just for comedy purposes because it's Darksteel Colossus. It's an 11/11 with trample. It has indestructible. I mean, that's just straight up damage right there. Also, and this is a theme on a lot of the cards, if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal it, and then shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So they kill it, put it right back in the library, and go fetch it again. What's worse than a Darksteel Colossus, you might ask? Blightsteel Colossus. It's an 11/11 for 12, and it's trample and infect. Also, it has the same ability where it goes back to the library pretty much no matter what. You know, personally, I'd lean towards Blightsteel. Next up, the master of Phyrexia himself, Jin Gitaxias, Core Augur. It's only a 5/4, but at the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards, and each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. So, bring them out for free, pass. They immediately at their next end step have to discard all of the cards in their hand. That is a classic. Next up, we're going back to the Angels. This is a 4/6 flyer, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. So you can just take anything from the graveyard and just plop it right onto the battlefield for free. Great insurance policy in case somebody blows up your actual Planar Bridge. If you thought this was all going to be creatures, oh no, you can go fetch an enchantment as well. Although it's arguable whether or not you can fetch an aura, because I'm not sure if you're allowed to attach it. I know the rules with Bestow were a little bit different. I think you can, though. I don't think any auras actually made it to this list, though, so whatever. This regular old enchantment is called Debtor's Knell. This is some funny crap. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card in a graveyard into play under your control. So not just your graveyard, any graveyard. You don't even have to pay for this ability. Next up, big surprise, Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. So you don't get the extra turn because you didn't technically cast it, but it has flying, protection from colored spells, and Annihilator 6. Plus, it goes back to the library if it goes to the graveyard, so you can fetch it over and over and over. Okay, I'll admit it, this is probably in the top 5. Next up, we've got also Emrakul. Obviously, you don't get to control your opponent's next turn, but it does have flying, trample, and protection from instants. That alone is pretty good, considering it's 13 damage. Oh, is your opponent playing some ridiculous shutdown garbage like, I don't know, I'll say Lantern Control? Excruciator. Damage that would be dealt by Excruciator can't be prevented. So if you can actually swing with him in the first place, 7 damage guaranteed. It's a little specific, but it looks pretty good. Also, it totally looks like Deadpool from that one X-Men movie. All the way from the weirdness that was 9th edition, we've got Form of the Dragon. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dragon deals 5 damage to target creature or player, and at the end of each turn, your life total becomes 5. A little bit of a suicide pact there, but you might be able to kill them. Oh, and by the way, creatures without flying can't attack you. This could be powerful enough to win the game. Next up, considering this is printed in Magic Space Japan set, I'm going to take a guess it's pronounced Iname as one. I honestly thought that was something you order at a restaurant, but let's go with it. Now, its first ability won't go off because you didn't play it from your hand, but when it's put into the graveyard from play, you may remove it from the game. If you do, return target spirit card from your graveyard to play. So a little bit more specific. It doesn't even have flying, but it's worth considering if for some reason you put spirits in the graveyard, or if you're doing like a board wipe thing with Selfless Spirit. Next up, everybody's favorite, oh yes, Inkwell Leviathan. It's the old 7-Eleven. I wouldn't try to order a slushie from it, though. This nightmare of a creature has Island Walk, Trample, and Shroud. That's just a good solid combination. It's pretty damn hard to kill. Next up, we've got a beast of a card, Iona, Shield of Emeria. Flying 7/7, and when it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. Absolute shutdown. That is probably the absolute best way to protect Planar Bridge. Next up, you knew it was coming, Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. He's dishonored because he's a 12/12 with Annihilator 4, and when he goes to the graveyard from anywhere, you put him right back in the library and go get him again. That is power. Damn, I think my lungs are bleeding. That's probably not good. Let's keep going, though. Leisha the Tangle. I just love the artwork. Oh, and also it's an 8/8 with Trample, and as soon as it touches the player with at least 1 damage, you may choose any number of target lands you control and basically awaken them as 8/8s. Yeah. They also stay that way. Next up, we got Mind Leech Mass. It's a 6/6 with Trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you may look at that player's hand. If you do, you may play a non-land card in it without paying that card's mana cost. So instant, sorcery, creature, planeswalker, artifact, enchantment, doesn't matter. I just think this would be the funniest damn thing ever, so I put it on the list. Oh, you have a removal spell for my Planar Bridge? Let me blow up one of your artifacts. I know some of you have been waiting for this one. Omniscience. You may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana cost. For the rest of the game, basically, as long as this enchantment is in play. That's a gift that keeps on giving if you're stuck with a bunch of the biggies in your hand. You knew more Eldrazi were coming. Oh yes, Pathraiser of Ulamog. He's a 9/9 with Annihilator 3, and it can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, which they probably won't have after Annihilator goes off. Nice little clever combo there, because he's almost unblockable. Next up is Platinum Empyrean, 8/8 for 8, and your life total can't change. Simple as that. And here's his less morbidly obese cousin, Platinum Angel. Oh look, it's a 4/4 flyer and you can't lose the game. You guys know what Platinum Angel does, come on. Planar Bridge looks an awful lot like a portal, so why not summon another portal with it? It's time for Possessed Portal. If a player would draw a card, they don't. Also, at the end of each turn, each player sacrifices a permanent unless he or she discards a card from his or her hand. So that does include you, but you could just keep summoning crap with Planar Bridge. It doesn't really matter. Next up is Woodfall Primus. You know, if it's called Primus, it's got to be good, and it's a Treefolk Shaman. This one's got a lot going for it. It's 6/6 with Trample. When it comes into play, destroy target non-creature permanent, so whatever's getting in your way, get rid of it, and it has Persist, so you have to kill it twice. That's a lot of bang for your buck, but if you want bang for your buck, Progenitus. Okay, you knew this one was going to be on there. This is the devil himself in Hydra form. Oh yes, a 10/10 with protection from everything. Oh, also, if it goes into the graveyard for any reason, it goes right back to your library, so you can summon it over and over and over. One of the only ways to kill this is to force you to sacrifice it, in which case it would go to the library and you could cast it again. This one's in the top 5. Next up, we've got Skeletal Worm. This one's pretty simple. It's a 7/6, and you can regenerate it for 1. So if they've got a lot of removal, now they don't. And next we've got Sphinx of the Steel Wind. I personally love this card. Sphinxes are awesome. Surprised more didn't make this list though. This has Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink, and Protection from Christmas. If that's what your opponent's playing, there you go, the golden card. Next up, one of my absolute personal favorites. I own a full foil playset, which cost me like 75 cents a card. It's the 8/8 Stormtide Leviathan with Island Walk. All lands are islands in addition to their other types, and creatures without flying or island walk can't attack. You just got shut down. And next up, we've got Sundering Titan, also printed as a masterpiece in the near future. When it comes into play, choose a land of each basic land type and then destroy those lands. So you might be able to get rid of a pretty good mana base on your opponent's side. In Modern, that's not quite as likely to hit, being basic and all. But when it leaves play, choose a land of each basic land type and destroy it again. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Everybody loves a 2-for-1 special. Next up is Hula 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 Mog. Everybody loves the Infinite Gyre. He's indestructible, he has Annihilator 4, and he does 10 damage. That's pretty much all you need. Also, right back to the library if he ever goes to the graveyard. That's annoying. You know what's also annoying? Ulamog 2.0, the Ceaseless Hunger. You wouldn't get to exile 2 permanents, but he's a 10/10 and he's indestructible, and when he swings, you basically exile mill them for 20. So if they have some kind of weird thing, they have infinite life, they have a million life because they're a kitchen finks playing infinite jerk, well, mill them out. That alone puts this in the top 10 because it's such a weird alternate win condition. Next up, you knew I had to throw it in. Void Winnower, oh yes. One of the strangest, most broken, weird, unusual, just chaotic, stupid cards. 11 damage, that's always fun, and they can't cast spells with even converted mana costs and can't block with even converted mana cost creatures, including 0. It's not great, it's not reliable, but in some situations it would shut down your opponent. Next up is Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. He's a legendary Praetor. Oh boy. 7/6 with Trample, and whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 extra mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. And that's pretty fun because now you could probably use your Planar Bridge even more reliably. Or naturally cast some giant high cost from your hand while also using Planar Bridge because you just doubled your mana. Even better, whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Mana ramp with Shutdown, I love it. Next up, we've got Bringer of the White Dawn. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, yeah, but there's 4 other Bringers of the Dawns. They all suck, shut up. This is a 5/5 with Trample, so it's already not great, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to play. Like, for example, Planar Bridge in case they blow it up. When you're talking about gigantic creatures, you know you gotta go to the worms. Oh yes. World Spine Worm, all the way from Return to Ravnica, 15/15 Trample, and when it dies, you put out 3 5/5 green worm creature tokens, also with Trample. Oh, and if it's put into the graveyard from everywhere, or anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So it dies, splits into 3 pieces, and then you cast it again the next turn. For sure, absolutely in the top 5. Oh, you like worms? Okay, here's another one. Autochthon, whatever the hell worm. It could be Autochthon. Let's go with that. It's just a straight up 9/14 with Trample. That's it. That's all you need. Now, I didn't name a single land card. Oh my gosh, how could I do that? Well, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Nothing screams, I'm going to keep using Planar Bridge over and over and over like tapping for 10 mana. Or more, I mean, I'm just basing it on my devotion decks. Wait a minute, that's only 41. What's the 42nd one? The 42nd spot is any Planeswalker. Any of them. All of them. I don't care. I'm not even going to pick 1 or 2 or 3 because I'd end up picking about 75% of them. Throw out Ugin, throw out Nicol Bolas, throw out Sorin. I mean, you guys know which ones are powerful. Hell, throw Karn out there. Why not? So that little extra bonus wildcard out of the way, hopefully you guys recognize why everybody seems to think that Planar Bridge is insane. Everybody's saying, oh, Emrakul, 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 Emrakul. Great, but there's more situational cards that you could throw out depending upon what your opponent's playing, and you could definitely bring them in from your sideboard for the second game, or you could just have a nice variety of different ways to handle different things. Indestructible creatures, unblockables, flying, tramples, shutdown, land destruction, you name it, Magic has got it. Here's hoping Wizards gets a freaking clue and bans this card before it even comes out, but I think we all know they're not going to do that. It is absolutely going to be banned eventually from Modern, though. Tron cannot have this card. It's just not fair. The real thing that you have to ask yourself is why the hell do cards like this keep getting through R&D? Now, I would say this is just barely appropriately powered in Standard. I mean, it's good, but it's not like insane. It's not like Emrakul on turn 4 in Standard, which is completely OP. But this is easily a turn 5 or 6, Eldrazi Titan, so it ain't no joke. But in Modern and Legacy, honestly, from what I've heard, this is just stupid. So Wizards' policy, as they've stated, is to design cards for Standard because that's their product. They, if anything, think about Modern as an afterthought, and I made a whole video about why everything they said about that is complete and utter lie because I proved them wrong with another quote that they said. But they're sticking to that. So apparently they had no idea somebody might put this in a Tron deck. That's what they're going with. In reality, they knew damn well what this would do to Tron, and they printed it anyway because they wanted it in Standard, and they think about Modern as a second product, and oh well. They're not going to nerf something to not ruin Modern, because who cares? They designed for Standard. So saying they don't know about it, that's a load of crap, but saying that they don't care about Modern and don't care if a card in Standard breaks Modern, that is true. Here's the problem with that policy, because I wouldn't have a problem with that policy if they would immediately identify this and ban it. Well, unfortunately, there's this little thing called an emergency ban, and depending upon how you look at it, they've never used it. It's an out-of-cycle ban. I don't actually know when the next cycle is. I feel like it might be when Amonkhet launches. I don't think it's when Aether Revolt launches. But they have shown that they will let a card completely ruin every single Pro Tour and basically every other Modern tournament until the next ban period. So if you're planning on going to any kind of competitive Modern tournament or Modern event prior to the next ban cycle, don't bother. Welcome to Eldrazi 2.0. Oh, and you might want to sell off all your Tron lands as soon as this launches and then buy them back when they ban it. And they will ban it. Just not on time. Not until it ruins a couple tournaments. They gotta let it do its damage just to piss off the customer base even more. So have fun with that. I'll be playing Commander and Giant Leaders. See you guys next video.